What's up, good people, ladies and gentlemen? It is Craig. It is Garrett. We are here. Jamie, busy tonight, but Craig and I here to take over, talk about day one of free agency. I know it wasn't filled with a lot of the free agents that a lot of Chargers fans wanted, but it was a pretty productive day. And before we get on to that, we kind of teased it on Twitter a little bit. But and I believe Jamie put it in the Discord. So if you guys aren't a part of the Discord, go join, go be part of the Patreon. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, go do that. We're going to talk about some rumors we had before free agency that ended up working out that we'll talk about when we talk about free agencies. But first, trade rumors. So as reported by almost everybody, and I guess confirmed by me, is that the Chargers are putting the big four on the trade market. They are making it very known and very public. It is Keenan Allen, it is Mike Williams, it is Khalil Mack, it is Joey Bosa. They're obviously over the cap right now. They are cash strapped, and they're going to have to do something with one of those four if they want to make a dent in that and get in the green at some point before they have to officially sign the free agents that they locked up today. So the rumor, not a rumor, but the thing that we posted today, Jamie did, was that there's a team interested in trading for Mike Williams. And so they've basically put out feelers to everybody to see, what they could get for Mac, what they can get for Bosa, what they get for Mike Williams, what they can get for Keenan Allen. And then they're going to go back, weigh their options, and see what they have to do to get back in the green. So one team that's very interested in Mike Williams is the New England Patriots. They have talked to the Patriots twice they went back and forth about some kind of surface conversations about trading for Mike Williams. Obviously, we saw today, this happened after we had already posted it, but they cut Devontae Parker. Obviously, they're very low on wide receiver depth in New England, but they are looking to trade for Mike Williams as well as T. Higgins. So right now, there's somewhat of a wide receiver deal battle going on, whether the Bengals want to trade T. Higgins or not, but the Patriots are both interested in not only Mike Williams, but also T. Higgins as well. So they might have to battle that out to see who gets picks. But right now, the Chargers are going to have to do something. And they don't have to do it until Wednesday or Friday, but as of right now, they are over the cap. But right now, as you know it, New England Patriots interested in Mike Williams.
If you can get something for him, you should. We chatted about this a little bit before we started off the show. I mean, at the end of the day here, you got a guy who's coming off of a major injury and also has an injury history. And the league knows that you're kind of in a bit of a bind with your big four guys. So you're going to have to come off of at least two of them, probably. And if you're talking about Mike Williams, if there's a suitor out there, take it, because it's better than nothing and just letting them go. And if it's the Patriots, then sure, you can come and take our oft-injured wide receiver and give it a shot, see how that works out for you. And less than ideal climate, playing outside and snow and all that other stuff, I'm sure that'll go really well for him. But as much as we loved everything that Mike Will's done here as a playmaker for the Chargers, it's time to move forward. And it's really unfortunate that he's dealt with the injuries that he has, but it's been a thing since he was in college. But by all means, if somebody wants to come get him, shoot your shot.
Yeah. Yeah, I think at some point they got to just take what they can get. I know they got to weigh, or they want to weigh, the big four and the contracts and the compensation. But man, if you can get something for somebody, you're gonna have to move on it pretty quickly. And I know there were rumors about Khalil Mack going to the Lions. Doesn't look like that's going to end up happening. But who did they pick up? They picked up. We were just talking about it, and now I lost his name.
You're talking about the Lions?
Yeah.
Did I forget the name too? I got distracted because it's Leonard Floyd. Leonard Floyd. Well, no. Yeah. Leonard Floyd.
Oh, wait.
No, Leonard Floyd went to the Niners. You said
Niners. That's what I meant. Yeah.
Okay. But the Niners also just signed another edge player. That's why I got distracted. Grossmatus. I cannot remember that kid's name.
Oh, okay.
Grossma something or another.
Yeah,
they just signed another edge
guy.
Yetur Grossmatus or something.
Matos. Yeah. So yeah. Yeah.
So I know that the whole thing about Joey Bosa going to play along Nicky was a big thing, but I don't know if they're filling out, their roster with additional edge rushers, then it may not look like, it's looking like that may not happen, should I say?
Yeah, so Bosa, well, I know Mama Bear wanted that, but it doesn't look like Joey and Nick are going to team up. But it's Marcus Davenport. Thank you, chat. That's who the Lions ended up picking up. So, and also, chat, if anything happens while we're talking, I'd love to do a live reaction. So let us know in the chat if anything happens, any moves get made while we're talking. But let's go ahead and get into it. So we're going to talk about who the Chargers signed. But first, let's talk about the first departure for the internal free agents for the Chargers. And it is none other than Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler leaves the Chargers in free agency. He signs a 2-year deal worth $11.4 million with the Washington Commanders. Thoughts on this, Craig?
Good for him. Money definitely wasn't going to come from the Chargers. When I say as a fan favorite really took a major turn over the course of the last year or so, but we're kind of accustomed to this with Chargers and disgruntled running backs. But I'm glad he was able to get some money somewhere. Was it 2 years, 11? So probably not the type of deal he was anticipating. But I mean, at the end of the day, you weren't going to get Saquon money. You're not that level of a back. And even though you are a bit more durable than Saquon's proven to be, you're still not necessarily in that same tier. So I'm glad he was able to get a fresh start elsewhere. The Commanders are trying to make some really big moves. And, you know, depending on what they do here in the first round, they're looking at getting a brand new quarterback. And, you know, that offense is probably going to be really wide open. So it'll suit him. He'll probably still be there in a committee fashion alongside of another back, you know, whether it's a tandem or 3 back sets or however they want to rotate it in and out. But happy for him, man. I know, again, he wasn't the most likable guy here towards the end, but I still wish him success. So hope he goes and does his thing in DC.
I know the Commanders made some moves on defense, but the Zach Ertz, Austin Eckler pairing, I don't know how much that's going to help you in 2024, but but good for you, man. I mean, the story on Eckler is always amazing, and you know, like Craig said, I mean, he was always a fan favorite. The kind of issues in the offseason was tough, and the fact that he fought for these running back contracts and then ended up getting less than most of them is a real kick in the pants for Ekler. But hey, he got some money and he's able to play somewhere else. And, you know, he's all but washed in his career. You could tell that he's lost a step or two this past season. But, you know, it's a short-term deal for Ekler, and, you know, we'll see how it works out with the Commanders. But I am personally, from a Chargers perspective, happy they did not go back to the well here with Austin Eckler. Best of luck. You know, I hope he does great in Washington, but I do not see this turning out well for him these next 2 years.
Well, maybe he took the bullet for the rest of the running backs, because apparently backs are back this year. Some of your cats are getting broke off. And
they
Austin,
sure are.
Fortunately, is not one of them per se. But again, good for you for standing up, man. It might have done really well for everyone else, just not necessarily you.
Yeah. Took a bullet for the whole committee because, man.
Sacrificial lamb.
Yeah. Man, when DeAndre Swift got that deal out the gate, it was like, damn.
Did not see that coming.
Me neither. But so Austin Eckler eventually signs. It was kind of later in the day today. A lot of what felt like, at least when you were ranking the tiers of running backs, the kind of mid to second or third tier after Eckler getting signed, a couple of them going before Eckler ended up going, but he found a suitor in Washington. Off he goes. And I don't believe they're going to end up getting a comp pick for this because of the Gus Edwards situation, but either way, good for the Commanders, and glad the Chargers did not go back and re-sign Austin Eckler. Happy that both Joe and Harbaugh decided to stay away from this running back.
Well, now that we're actually on the topic, maybe it's something else we should mention, is that the Chargers were kind of sort of initially going into today with an idea that they may want to take a shot at one of the tier 1 backs, but shortly thereafter, their minds were changed.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, let's get into that when we talk about Gus. Let's first start with the re-sign. So there's 3 moves today that the Chargers made. They re-signed 1 player. They signed 2 external free agents so far. And right now, the first one here is Alohi Gilman. They re-signed the safety to a 2-year, $11 million deal. I know a big fan favorite for the Chargers fans. They really loved Alohi and his personality. He posted a video, which was real sweet, about returning to California, and glad he's back. But Alohi is with the Chargers for 2 more years. We don't know the details exactly on these 2 years. There could easily be a parachute after year one, and this could more look like a 1-year deal. But right now, in general terms, it's a 2-year, $11 million deal.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if this is one of those, like you mentioned, ripcord deals in year 2, because at this point in time, like, the safety market is super saturated, which is why I'm a little shocked that they signed Gilman when they did. There's a lot of veterans out there that maybe are a bit, well, not, but maybe they are better all around safeties than Alohi is. This is just one of their guys. I'm sure he had a lot of support, and there was a groundswell, not just, inside the building there with those that are still left over from the previous regime and in ownership, but with the fan base. So this is probably one of those fanfare moves, but also Alohi's earned his money. I mean, he played really, really well last year, so I don't want to undercut that. But it was one of those scenarios where it's a contract year. Guys tend to, really, really put their best foot forward then. I did like his improvement as a player on the field. Overall, if you're telling me this is a signing for the purposes of not just depth, but if you're going into this new defense and you're going to utilize more 3 safety sets, and I'm cool with it, because I would not imagine that he's going to be your primary deep third safety. So I'm cool with them in the box. I mean, dude made plays last year. That was kind of his calling card. Like, he had 5 total turnovers, like 3 forced fumbles and 2 interceptions. So again, I think that he did enough to earn some bread. So I'm happy that he got it. I was a little shocked that they signed him as quickly as they did with what was out there on the market. But good for him. And I think he's just going to be a part of the bigger plan of the defense making a transition over to the new scheme. And he's going to be used properly. That's what I have faith in.
Yeah. There's a couple of things I want to say about this. And it was either fans were over the moon about this signing, or this was the end of Ortiz before he even got started. So, and I am, in all honesty, I am somewhere way in the middle of this. I don't love this move, and I don't hate this move. I think it's important to point out he had a career year, albeit it was the last season. But what is most important here, and what makes this move either great, good, or indifferent, is how Minter uses Gilman in his system. The fit is where the question is, because in the deep third, he was no good. As a free safety center fielder, he was not good. He is much better closer to the line of scrimmage. It's been that way since Notre Dame. They haven't played him in the box as much as you'd like to, especially for a guy who thrives closer to the line of scrimmage. I love this move if it's DB depth. You want to get an extra DB on the field, I am real good with it. If this is a full-time free safety, I'm not so on board with it. If you're talking about maybe putting him in, as a big nickel, or playing him as, at the second level as a defender, I'm good with it too. But I definitely don't hate this move, and I definitely don't absolutely love it. What really makes the difference for me is to see what Minter does with Alohi Gilman, because I think there are some things to like about Gilman. I do think having a career year and there's a lot of big stats, it felt like there were some fluky, interceptions on errant throws, that, 2 of his fumbles were almost after the whistle where he's ripping at the ball, so while he got it, it counts in the stat sheet. But, I just feel like what will really make the difference on whether this is a good move or not is the fit with Minter in his defense. And obviously they have some kind of role for him, because the timing, just like Craig said, that made me question the whole thing, because you didn't see any safety really fly off the board yet. And have Gilman go as high as he did with a lot of these veteran moves, it could very well be that they want to double dip at safety and they want to have Gilman there as an extra DB, and that'd be great. But they'd also have to make room for that financially. But one thing I do want to say is that I know a lot of people are concerned with the money, because 2 years, $11 million. I think a lot of people think it's overpaying. And I just feel like if you're talking about, at the very least, high in depth, $5.5 million annually is pretty fair market value for the safety group. Like, going back and looking at these free agent safeties, they're getting mostly double digits, or at least close to it. if you put his contract next to other contracts, when I was going through the like free agency podcast and all the other safeties, he matches up with like those veteran safeties. It was like Jerron Kearse and Xavier Woods. They're like 28 and 30. And then if you put him any lower, he's about where Kyle Hamilton is, and he's on a rookie deal. Mm-hmm. So financially, it makes sense. It is not the big, overpay that a lot of people are making it to be online. But I do think, quite honestly, there could be tomorrow or the next day better value at safety with some of these veterans that I think are probably better than Alohi Gilman is. But you're talking about a 26-year-old safety coming off of his best year who has some versatility in the defense. You're not breaking the bank to re-sign him. And at depth, at worst, it's depth. That I'm okay with. But really, this is remains to be seen. I feel like when we get to these outside free agents, it's like set in stone. We know exactly what's going to happen. We know where the system is. It fits. It is a round hole with a round peg. It makes total sense. This, to me, could be kind of a square peg round hole situation if they decide to play him in the deep third. But for me, I don't think it's an overpay. I'm fine with it. And really, I don't know that we're talking full-time starter, but at the very least, kind of a high-end DB depth.
I will say that I was not expecting him to go the same day or within hours of names like Xavier McKinney, Darnell Savage, Kevin Byard. Geno Stone, the interesting part about that is that Stone didn't even go to Seattle. He went to Cincinnati, which I don't think any of us guessed. We just assumed it would be between the Chargers and the Seahawks. It just made sense. But ironically enough, Geno Stone to me would have been the better fit just because he's the better cover safety. Alohi can cover in short areas, but like we talked about, we don't want him in the deep third. The other side of that is he also missed 10 tackles last year. So it wasn't a perfect year by any means. He just improved by pretty big leaps and bounds. So we want to give him credit where it's due, but let's not confuse this with an upper echelon safety signing. Just kind of looking around and hearing things, he is in high regard around the league everywhere else. So either we just don't value him or other people don't watch enough Chargers games. So that's going to be, I'm going to go with the latter on that one.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay. So if you guys have any moves that happen, even if it's Chargers or not, we can go live with that stuff. So if you find anything, let us know. Obviously there are some people that absolutely love Gilman and probably don't like what we're saying right now about him, but
we're being fair, man. At the end of the day, you're getting your critiques there. We're giving him his praise where it's due, but let's just be honest. Who was expecting this signing today? Like, if you're really paying attention to what's going on and everything that's available out there. And if you did, then good on you, but I don't believe you.
Yeah, he was. I can't imagine that he was high on everybody's list in terms of day one free agent signings. But to each their own, I guess. Either way, Gilman, 2 years, $11 million is the deal. We'll see the specifics of the deal coming up soon, I am sure. First move here being reported: Jordan Hicks, 2 years, $8 million with the Browns.
Linebacker?
Those linebackers off the board.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
Former Eagles.
Okay.
Yeah. Definitely a group that they're going to have to improve very soon, and I hope that it's not with number 9. But let's move on to external free agents. All right, let's go to the fun stuff. Here we go, Craig.
Yeah.
First off the board, the first one the Chargers make today, the first signing. It makes total sense. And let's segue because you kind of alluded to it earlier. So we reported last night, and it's in the Discord again. If you're not part of Patreon, go join and be part of the Discord and go have fun in there. I'm the one who gets bullied. The rest of you guys will be totally fine. So go in the Discord and have some fun. But last night, I got a text that the Chargers were going to be attacking this running back market. They were aiming for the top guys. They really felt like over the last couple of years, the running back market is kind of starting to slide. That's like what we talked about earlier. Ekler has been fighting for that, and Ekler didn't get a deal he wanted. He ended up re-signing, but they felt like it was a pretty suppressed running back market. And because they felt like that was the trend, they were going to go after some of the top guys. And once free agency opened, that was not the case. DeAndre Swift got a bag thrown at him. And then Saquon goes off the board. And then Josh Jacobs goes off the board. You saw Tony Pollard sign for a lot of money. Gibson signs for a lot of money. Devin Singletary signs for more money than I thought I was going to get. And then immediately the Chargers realize we got to back off this idea because we are not getting any value with these high-end running backs. Everybody wants one. And a lot of people pointed it out today, but this is obviously a down year in terms of running back draft class. So it seems like a lot of teams are going out to veterans right now. Chargers ended up taking that route, but taking a more cost-effective route and signing Gus Edwards, the Gus Bus, the running back from the Baltimore Ravens. He signed for 2 years, $6.5 million. How are you feeling about it?
All right, so I'm gonna say the first thing that nobody here cares about, but I have to get this off my chest. This man single-handedly cost me my fantasy league because he was poaching touchdowns. So I had Lamar Jackson as my QB, and Lamar would break off like a 30, 40-yard run, get caught at the 7, and then just hand it off to Gus. He'd score and be like, oh, great, cool, whatever. But yeah, I lost money. Thanks, Gus. Welcome to LA, though. We do appreciate you here. So I've gotten that off of my chest. As far as him and the signing with the Chargers, it's perfect. It makes way too much sense, and it's super sensible. Like, let's think about some of the things here that I don't know if anyone's taken into account. You're looking at running backs like Saquon Barkley or Josh Jacobs. Gus Edwards actually has half the amount of career touches that they do, and he'll be 29 in April. So there's a lot of tread left on the tires. He's got 1 year where he got injured. He actually tore his ACLs in September of 2021. But other than that, he's been very available, and he hardly ever fumbles the ball. He's got a nose for the end zone, and he fits really good in a tandem system or a 3-back rotation. I think his style will be complemented really well by a more explosive back. And even if you're looking at just different types of running backs, he can be your grinder at like 6'1", 240 pounds. There's your thumper. You've got Isaiah Spiller that you still haven't completely utilized yet, but he has a similar style, but is a little bit more shifty. If you can go get a home run hitter, then that's your 3-back rotation. But Gus is going to be the guy that you're going to hand the ball off to on short yardages in the red zone. He's got a nose for the end zone. He's going to make it happen. I mean, like I mentioned before, he's always available. And also, he's averaged 5 yards a carry almost every season of his career, with the exception of 2. So 4 out of the 6, he's averaged 5 yards per carry. 3 of those seasons came with Greg Roman as his offensive coordinator. So keep that in mind. Another perfect match as well. The 2 years that he didn't rush for 5 yards per carry was 2021, where he tore his ACL, and also last season. But he kind of offset that by having a career year in touchdowns with 13. So there's no downside to this whatsoever. And you didn't have to spend an arm and a leg to make it happen. And you're still able to maneuver and get other complementary pieces and a back in the draft if you need to with a different skill set. So everything about Gus, I'm absolutely over the moon about. Whereas I know some people look at it and don't think it's a major move. Well, you just have to look at it in totality. They're building a specific type of offense, and not every running back is going to fit that style. We know this guy does because you just watched it last year. And if you were paying attention, years prior to that. But the name isn't sexy, and when you put it next to Saquon Barkley or Josh Jacobs, then you roll your eyes a little bit. But you just have to look a little bit deeper. Like, super shallow to view the running back class, this free agency class, in the way where it's just top heavy. This is an extreme value pick, but I mean, it's uber production that goes along with that value. It just lines up ideally for everything that the Chargers need.
So, catching up on the moves in the chat. Thank you, chat. Chase Edmonds went to the Buccaneers. And then there was one more. Ravens are re-signing free agent linebacker Malik Harrison to a 1-year deal. Another linebacker off the board for the Chargers. So this, I'm really excited about this. Once this happened, I mean, we mentioned it, and each of us have mentioned it probably multiple times throughout this offseason, like how much sense this makes, and in the style of football that Greg Roman and Harbaugh want to play. So it's a 2-year deal. You talked about the career year, ran for 810 yards, 13 touchdowns. He had a career high in yards, touchdowns, touches, receptions, receiving yards, and they got one of the most efficient running backs in the NFL. He's finished top 5 in rushing success rate in the last 4 seasons. And also he was number 4 in short yardage success rate last season, a area that plagued the Chargers has plagued them for a very long time. They haven't had a power back like Gus Edwards, and I can't even remember how long. And then, of course, like you mentioned, it's going to be a reunion with Greg Roman. He averaged over 5 yards a carry every season under Roman. Also under Roman, he averaged 0.7 rushing yards over expected per carry from 2019 to 2022. So this is the kind of ground and pound type of offense that they want to run. This is the physical running game they've talked about. They wanted to bring this physical running attack to this team, and I don't know that there was a better ground and pound game than the Gus Bus. There just wasn't a running back available, and I know a lot of people are probably going to say, Derrick Henry or whatever, but he's got a lot of mileage on those legs, and Gus Edwards has been used sparingly in a 2, normally 3-headed attack in Baltimore. And to me, this is such a beautiful, sound business move when you look at just the value of a day one running back with how all this went. He's averaging, what is that, $3.25 million per year. We saw Barkley and Josh Jacobs go for $12 million per year. We saw Tony Pollard, DeAndre Swift go for $8 million per year. Antonio Gibson's Devin Singletary were around $5 million. And then you get Gus Edwards for 3.25. That is a beautiful move here. It's going to help the rushing attack, which they want to do. They want to ground and pound the football. They want to control the clock. And when you really think about, I know Greg Roman gets a lot of shit. It's happened from us. And I know that he can have some stale offenses, and it's probably going to frustrate some fans when he's running the ball over and over and over for effect. But when you think about the way in which the league's going, where it's very pass happy, everybody wants athletes on the field, everybody wants to run up the score. If you can't compete with that, why not control the ground game, control the clock, beat up your opponent for 4 quarters, win it and grind it out late? This is the type of guy you want grinding out yards at the end of games. The guy you want to punch it in on 3rd and 4th and short. The guy when you need an extra couple inches on a 4th down to get the first down to seal the game. This is your man. Now, I know the Chargers are going to need a running back one. This past year was his first time really getting a full workload. But, man, for me, this is a perfect move for what they want to do in the system and just the perfect complement for the type of rushing attack that this team wants to have. And I love this move.
It's making deposits for 4 quarters, man, body blows. And you're going to make a bunch of teams crumble, and you're going to find out who's there to play real football super early, because everything Roman is, he's definitely consistent for everything he isn't, should I say. And he's going to go out there and exercise his right to cram the ball down your throat as often as possible. And if it keeps working, he's not going to stop. The only difference is we've talked about this in the past, he's got an ascending near superstar quarterback to toss the ball around the yard. And if you equip him with the proper weapons, which I still believe that they will, you have a really sound and balanced offense. But just think about having the option to do either or. And honestly, this feels to me like, like you walk in Walmart, remember like the little $5 DVD bin? That's like digging through that and finding Goodfellas, dog. You're not going to get any better than that. So you should definitely appreciate this.
Or maybe Dogma on DVD, because that's like the holy grail on DVD.
I'm a crime mob guy, so
no, I got you. Oh, of course. No, I love the movie. I'm just saying that's worth a ton of money. But anyway,
sure.
Yes,
collector's item.
Yeah. So you could look at this as kind of a running back 1B, and then you think they maybe draft somebody as the 1A going forward. But this is, you've got Gus Edwards, you've got Spiller, who is more of a power back. You've got Dotson on the roster, which is kind of more of that scat back, a little bit more athletic than these two. But when you think about getting another running back, I'm sure they're going to find another one to kind of complement Gus Edwards. They're not going to leave him out as the starting running back week 1. There's going to be somebody who's going to be kind of competing with him. And this is the perfect move that if it doesn't work out and injuries occur or whatever, this is a borderline starting running back that you got for, a little bit more than $3 million a year. It's beautiful.
And if you want to just kind of use a point of reference, just go back and look at Joe Ortiz's tenure with the Ravens. Just look at what they've done in building up the running back room. Like some dudes have dealt with injuries and things of that nature, but if you pay attention to the styles, they complement each other. They have a thumper, they have someone who can do a little bit of both, and then they have like an explosive guy. Yep. And so I expect that to happen with the Chargers roster if he's going to bring that mindset over here to LA. So looking forward to it.
And a lot of late round guys too, they find.
It's also a Harbaugh thing. Well, if you want to look back to the days in San Francisco, they were drafting running backs every year.
Yep. All right. Texans signing Chiefs punter. What's his first name? Something Townsend.
I just remember the hair. I can't remember his first name.
Didn't they just sign Punt God?
Was that?
Ariza?
Yeah. Ariza.
Interesting. All right, cool. Let's go to the other external free agent signing, and that is tight end Will Dissly. Signs for 3 years, $14 million.
So you've been looking for a blocking tight end, you say, right? Well, let's just go ahead and get one of the best in the league.
What are you calling from 6 years ago? What are you calling from 6 years ago?
What do you mean?
You said, so you're looking for a blocking tight end.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah.
Like
I mean, every year, like all
ago.
the time for eternity.
Yeah.
Chargers fan since,
Manu Maliuna.
Yeah. Last one I can think of. Oh, God. We have been tortured.
Give me a blocking tight end since Manu Maliuna. Because I don't know that they have one. But anyway, I'm asking the chat, not you. Go ahead.
Okay.
I don't want to stop your thought process. Go ahead.
No, it's all good. So I'm talking about a guy who was a 6-year vet with the Seahawks, 6'4", 260 pounds. So not, your run-of-the-mill tight end. This is your traditional wide tight end. You're going to line him up and attach him to the end of the line of scrimmage, and you're going to let him go do work because he's not only really good as a run blocker, he also blocks really well in the passing game. So dual threat in that way. As far as a receiver, his best year was like 2022 and like 350 yards and 3 TDs. So you know what you're getting with him. This isn't going to be somebody that you're going to send out there to be a seam stretcher or a chess piece in your passing game. That's not what he does. What he is, though, is helping to build up, being one of those building blocks you want to have to establish the type of run game that you're looking to dominate with, because that is what he's about. He's a really nasty run blocker, and he's definitely all about finishing his food at the end of those reps. So I love to see it, and I'm really thankful that we can stop asking for this. But for, again, people who are more surface with their Chargers fandom, they probably see this name and don't think much of it, because at the very best, I think he was tight end 2 in Seattle, and you don't see the level of production that you think you want from a quote-unquote all-star elite tight end, but that's not going to be the job that he fills with the Chargers. He's going to be a part of probably a 3-headed tight end monster, and you're going to see him as a traditional Y. You'll probably see another like F or H-back type tight end that splits out, goes in the backfield, and you may see someone else who can do, again, a little of both. So you're going to get every flavor, and they're all going to be able to do one thing that is paramount in this offense, and that's block. So they're just starting to stack the bricks one on top of the other. And so this is a really underrated low-key signing that's going to pay off, because you also have to think of what the scheme is. And I think when you understand what the Chargers are looking to do, then all of these signings make more sense to you. And you're not just associating the names with the signing. You're looking at what they do and what they can provide to the offense.
Yeah. None of these moves at the end of the day feel like big swings. You're not going to see them, in the top 5 best day ones of free agencies that you'll probably see all over ESPN and Bleacher Report and all that. But what they're doing is building solid depth. And it's not just, hey, good enough if somebody gets hurt. This is valued depth that Harbaugh did in San Francisco, what Ortiz did in Baltimore. These are the types of signings that are going to go under the radar, but those two guys between the Gus Bus and Will Dissly here are going to absolutely transform the offense and the running game. They wanted to improve the run game, and getting Gus Edwards helps you day one. And then you get Will Dissly, and you've got one of the best run blocking tight ends in the NFL. It improves the tight end group, which is kind of a unit that's been a little empty, especially since Gerald Everett is still a free agent now. And it also helps the run game. He isn't a huge receiving weapon, like you said, but He has year in and year out been one of the best run blocking tight ends in the NFL. Seattle does not take him off the field because he is an extension of the run game. He is an extension of the offensive line. He is the type of depth this group needed. They needed a blocking tight end. It is a facet of the offense the Chargers have not had in so long. And I see some Virgil Green shout out, even a Trey McKitty shout out, Hunter Henry. Trey McKitty, obviously, we can't argue with. He's got a point there. He might be right on that. But but no. Even better than Hunter Henry, even better than Virgil. And I mean, I think Trey McKitty is literally laying bricks right now, like Craig was talking about. There's a brick laying. But this is your best blocking tight end on the roster, and automatically becomes your tight end too. In Harbaugh and Greg Roman's system, they play a lot of heavy packages. They play a lot of 12 personnel. Dissly automatically comes in. He's not going to be your tight end one because you need some kind of receiving weapon, but he is going to be on the field a whole hell of a lot. He's going to be an extension of the run game, like I mentioned. They still need a receiving threat. Gerald Everett isn't there right now. You've got Donald Parham. You've got Stone Smart. You got Will Dissly. There's not a lot there right now. So I know Brock Bowers fans will love to hear that, but Dissly's not your tight end one, but he is going to be on the field a lot. He helps in the run game, and he's kind of that safety valve that you need on a third down sometimes, where you think he's going to block and you run a little play action and get him open for a little 4-yard slant and get that first down. So the hands are fine. He just doesn't get a lot of opportunities to catch the ball. He didn't in Seattle. And it's a real, again, another low cost, 3 years, $14 million, but it improves the roster tremendously in a group that they just needed somebody there. And we talked about, like, there's a lot of bodies on this roster. This is key quality depth at a position they absolutely had to have. And if you're going to play a rookie there, there's going to be some growing pains, especially if you've got a blocking tight end. It's going to be rough. But when you get a veteran like a Will Dissly on your roster and put him on the field, man, you're already winning. So for me, this is, again, another underrated signing. I love it. Just like Gus Edwards, nobody's going to talk about it, but those two moves together back to back, I mean, it's already starting to set up the draft just a little bit, making sure you don't have to double dip on tight end, because if they didn't get another tight end, good chance they're going to have to draft two. Now you don't have to. You could probably just draft one if you wanted to. And it's key quality depth in a starter spot.
Isn't it nice to see actions behind words? Like,
yep.
You get sold this dream.
They say what they mean, and they mean what they say.
They actually are, laying the foundation for it to happen. So let's just be patient, allow these guys to do their job, because we know that they're having to maneuver around these other big contracts. So everybody who's looking for the bigger signings, just chill.
Yeah. So if you guys got questions, send them now, because that's the kind of end of the free agency little bit here. That's all the signings we got so far, unless something happened in the last 30 so odd minutes. But Craig, what are you hoping for in the next? I know, like, outside of trades, let's just talk about free agents. Is there anybody you're kind of thinking about, hoping on your free agent list? Is there anybody still left you're hoping they sign?
So I still think that they need a center. And I can't remember first name, Bozeman from the
Bradley.
Panthers. Yeah. Believe that he was also in Baltimore for a little bit. So he's got that experience there. He would probably fit seamlessly into the offensive scheme, but I really would like for them to solve the center quandary before the draft. I don't want to use early round draft capital on the center. It is a very, very important position, but with everything that this team needs, unless you're telling me they're going to go into a trade back situation where they can accumulate more picks, which could very well happen. I don't want to end up in a situation where they're sticking and picking and they have to use like a third rounder on a center, or they feel like, the run on the centers are happening early and they have to get one early in the second. It's just not ideal. If they could solve that in free agency, that would make me really happy. As far as anything else is concerned, I haven't looked at the cornerback market. It doesn't look like, a sign from Awuzie, who signed with the Titans today, I think, and got a nice little payday. I want to see them address cornerback. this year as well. In
Here's
free agency, at least one, because I think you're going to have to sign one and then definitely draft probably at least two. Two contributors, one immediate contributor. You still need a CB1 and a developmental guy, but I want to also see a vet get in the mix here. And I haven't looked at free agency to see who's available quite yet, and names aren't coming to me off the top of my head. But
I got your list
center,
here.
yeah. So center and corner would be the two.
Here's center, and I don't remember who posted this list, and it was a couple hours ago, so some guys might be gone. But Bozeman's still there, Connor Williams still there. I want to say Brewer got signed, but maybe I'm wrong on that. I thought Questenberry got. No, I think his brother did. But anyway, yeah, I get Bozeman. Connor Williams, I think, would be a very interesting. I know he's coming off an injury, but a nice little stopgap with some real upside if they
scroll over to corners really quickly. Is that on there?
Yeah. They're all here.
Okay, perfect.
Though again, it's 2 hours old, so
so I don't know who's still around, but I mean, Kenny Moore was one of my guys that I was thinking of coming in to play that slot role. He can play a little outside, smaller, but you would definitely lock down that CB3 or star position if you wanted to throw him in there. He's definitely scrappy enough to do it. Outside of that, Killer Witherspoon is a big body guy. I think the Chargers need someone to do that, play that role to replace Mike Davis. But they really and truly do need a CB1. As far as getting that in free agency, look,
look at the list.
I'm looking at Tre'Davious White's name sticking out like a sore thumb. The problem is the injuries. When he's on the field, he's an all-pro corner. The problem is he's just not on the field enough. He's dealing with he had a devastating injury just last season, so we don't know if he's the same guy. If you're talking about somebody you could sign on maybe a 1-year prove-it deal and have him come in and see if he can do his thing and then earn a paycheck elsewhere, or maybe extend him if he can make it through the whole year, then fine. But they have to find a CB1. And as much as we like Asante Samuel Jr., I do think that he's more of a mid to potentially high tier CB2. So you got to take care of that.
Yeah, I mean, corner and center is something we talked about that they really, really needed. And we talked about linebacker, and the list it's very bare right now. But yeah, Tre'Davious White and Xavier Howard really stick out in that group. And
just the injuries.
But it does feel like a Harbaugh type. Let's take a shot on a veteran and hope that we can get a healthy season out of him type move later in free agency. But Michael Davis is obviously there too. But like I said, I think Bozeman I think makes the most sense. But Connor Williams to me really, really intrigues me. The injury, again, this is another injury thing, and we're talking about we're almost done with day one of free agency, so we're kind of picking the bones clean right now. But Connor Williams, to me, it feels like a real high upside type move. Really talented when he's healthy, but coming off a really serious injury again. I think it's the second or third time now, but I don't know how much is left. But if there's anything, I would love it. But let's obviously center, getting a corner would be huge. Linebacker would be good, even though I'm not sure that would make a ton of sense. And there's a lot of still good interior. I know Leonard Williams just re-signed, but Armstead getting cut. Campbell feels like he never is going to retire. And then DJ Reader was my guy on my free agent podcast that I would love to have in the middle of that defense. But even after that, Daquan Jones is a good one. Deshaun Hand has some potential. So does Sheldon Rankins. I mean, there's some good ones.
Yeah.
Once you hit Jerry Tillery, I think you're in trouble. But before that, I like a lot of them.
I'm thinking about the scheme. Defensively, they're less about like getting penetrators and more about guys that can like collapse the pocket with power. But I'm going to stand on this. I think the Chargers need an interior disruptor. They've got to find one of those, whether it comes in the draft or free agency. So like if you're talking about maybe like a Sheldon Rankins or somebody like that you can mix in there, that'd be fine. But the Chargers have, an opportunity to groom some of these younger players on the roster to be some of those more bigger point of attack guys. But I would definitely like to see somebody who can get after the quarterback on the interior, at least, in a complimentary way, even if he isn't a full-time starter.
All right, let's get to these questions because we got a bunch while we were talking here. First one here, of course, Denny the Third, or just Denny Third. Thoughts on Christian Wilkinson to the Las Vegas Raiders, Greg?
Put a joke on Twitter earlier because I think that the Chargers are going to have to give Trey Pipkins the super soldier serum this offseason to make sure that he can stand up against Max Crosby, because you've given him a running mate on the interior. It's going to make his job that much harder on the outside, believe it or not. I think that they paid him a butt ton of money. And so they were clearly desperate to get somebody. I mean, you kick Jerry Tilley. Telesco probably couldn't wait to get Tillery out of there. And then you replace him with Wilkins, and it's someone who doesn't have like the pressure numbers that you would think associated with his name and the level of player that everyone believes him to be, but he's still an animal on the interior. He's going to muck some stuff up. But next to Max Crosby, that's a bit of a nightmare. So Chargers are going to have to get the entire offensive line figured out, but now specifically on the interior, because you can't screw around with that. You're going to have to get the center situation under control, which is why I would rather it be a vet as opposed to a rookie, unless you get the best of the best when it comes to the rookies. And last year, the interior play was not pretty whatsoever. I know that the coaching staff is going to put an emphasis on that. And if nothing else, Jim Harbaugh is going to have a solid offensive line, but it just got that much more difficult in the AFC West for sure.
Yeah, no, a great player, probably one of the top free agents on the market. It was 4 years, 110 million, 82 million guaranteed, and everybody's made the same joke, but once Telesco leaves, he finally invests in the trenches and goes after somebody that's actually pretty good. But the big question is, how do you invest that much money in the trenches and not have a starting quarterback?
Gardner
Minshew.
They not have a starting quarterback.
Rolling with Minshew and O'Connell. It's a great pairing with Max Crosby, and to have an interior penetrator is a big deal in the NFL, and Wilkins is one of the better ones in the NFL. But that is a ton of money to tie up, especially in all that guaranteed money. That really feels like it's going to hurt him in year 3, year 4, because they're going to have a quarterback to get them anywhere, and they don't have a starting quarterback on the roster right now, no matter how many Gardner Minshews they sign. So love the player. I'm not sure it makes a ton of sense, and that's allocating a ton of cash to a guy in a position that, is great. It's good to get a pass rusher on the inside and a guy like Wilkins, but man, it seems like there's bigger fish to feed, especially with a guy like Devontae Adams, who's hasn't really been happy in his stay in Las Vegas so far. Now you put all this money in Wilkins in the trenches, and then you sign Gardner Minshew.
They're going to draft a QB at some point. This is one of those bridge situations. It's just which quarterback are you going to get? Because if you want one of the top guys, it's going to cost you. And if you're talking about tier 2, then those are the cats that are probably going to have to sit for a year. So they put themselves in a really weird situation here. But if Mr. Davis is going to let you spend the money, then I guess do it.
Yeah,
he's not accustomed to that. He doesn't know what to do with himself.
Yeah, I don't know what quarterback's going to fall to them at 13. That seems a long way to go.
It would be funny that if McCarthy somehow ended up a Raider. That would just be perfect.
What positions do you want them to attack? We talked about that. Do you think it makes sense to double dip in the running back free agent market and get Zach Moss for an affordable contract as well? I say no. I don't want to go veteran. I need a young kid in there, and I'm probably looking at the draft and in kind of the later rounds for somebody.
No, draft another one, and I don't care what anyone says. I still believe in Isaiah Spiller until he no longer exists as a Charger, and I'll still believe in him afterwards. But yeah, just give the kid a chance. Like, we've seen it in spurts. Just give him an opportunity. Let's see what he can do.
Yeah, and Zach Moss kind of a little bit redundant with Gus Edwards and Spiller at the same point. So having three kind of power backs in the offense, I get what you're saying. They got to get another running back. I'm not sure Zach Moss kind of lines up offensively. Do you guys, this is from Brennan Gadd, do you guys think that drafting Blake Corum takes a hit with the signing of Gus? Not a great compliment to Gus, in my opinion. Personally, I'm not high on Corum, but obviously Harbaugh connection is there.
I would say it depends on where Corum falls. If you're looking at another situation like you're sitting there in the fourth round, if he were to fall into the fourth, which I could see him being there in the fourth, and you've attacked some of those higher positions of need, and he's just sitting there. And let's say throughout free agency, you make a couple moves here and there and fill some other positions of need where you don't have to take care of, say, like a corner or a center situation. I could still see him being drafted because you have to keep in mind, Corum's still not what he was 2 years ago before the injury. He's pretty much working his way back. 2 years ago, Blake Corum was arguably the best running back in college football. Well, one of them. He was a top 5 running back in college football. And no one knows him better than Jim. So you might as well bank that the Chargers are getting at least like 2 players from Michigan. My guess is one is going to be on the offensive side of the ball. The other is going to be defensive. That's my mindset right now. So it's probably either going to be a running back or a receiver.
I'm not saying he wouldn't be a great compliment. I know he kind of runs like a power back, but he's got a little wiggle to him. I don't know that it's a terrible compliment, but yeah, I think at this point, I don't think you could really spend the first 3 picks on a running back. That just seems too rich for all the holes the Chargers need to fill in the draft. So depending on what they do in free agency, obviously, but there's too many holes on the roster. I think they gotta go elsewhere before reaching for Corum, which fourth might be stretching it a little bit just because
it also depends on if they do the trade back situation and they acquire some extra picks. Then I think it's really on the table. But as you're mentioning, it just kind of depends on what they need. And if they just stick and pick and we're just talking about 1 pick each round, then they'll probably pass on him. But if you can come away with an extra 2 of them, I would not be shocked.
All right. Man, TH, always asking this in the chat. I'll answer it. Is your mole still in the building? The answer is yes. Is he a mole or is he just a dude I've got to know? I don't know that he's a mole, but anyway, yes, I have a connection in the building. Will you stop leaking the info in the Discord leading up to the draft? The answer to that is no.
You were committed to this. I'll give you that, man. If nothing else, you are consistent.
I know you feel like leaking information is going to hurt the Chargers draft chances and the players that they're going to pick, and other teams are going to catch up on it. But in the Discord, it's kind of a private community. And I know some people try to spread some information. We've clamped down on that in the past for sure. But, we mentioned a few things on the podcast, but it's not like it's hurting anybody. If anybody listens, they could be in on a player now and it doesn't come to them when they end up picking. The draft happens as it happens. There's been a lot of stuff where they're like a lot of players or they're in love with another player, would love to have X player at this certain round, and then they go before them, or there's a player they like even more there still available. So no, one, I don't think it hurts the Chargers, and 2, we got our own little community in Discord. And if you're not there, make sure to join. So thanks for the little plug there, TH. Let's see. What do you think about McFadden at center from GS? That's not me, by the way. It's my initials, but that's not me.
I was going to say, man, you were really slick. There's potential there. McFadden's definitely shown, even at Clemson, the ability to play up and down the line. So I would say that nothing's off the table when you're looking to fix the center situation. But, we saw enough of him at fullback. I think we can pass on that. I would much rather him on the line of scrimmage blocking up front. So if they gave him some opportunities, between the 2, I think Zion might actually be a better center moving forward, just potential wise, than even McFadden might be. But I'm down with giving him a shot. Why not?
Yeah. Zion was kind of drafted as with the idea. There was always talk about him eventually moving to center just because of his on the field IQ,
Mhm.
and kind of being the captain of the offensive line in college, Boston College. But yeah, I'm all for trying out McFadden and Zion and kind of just figuring out your best three with him and Salyer and McFadden and Zion. McFadden was, I don't want to say revelation. That feels a little too hot of a take, but he was impressive in the spurts that he started. So I'd like to see him get a chance at a starting role next season. If that's at center, so be it. I when they drafted him, I felt like he would be a great Lindsley replacement once he retired, which is going to be this season. So I'm all for it, but I think there's got to be some kind of competition. That's why I would love for them to bring in some kind of veteran center, work in McFadden and Zion in camp, see who kind of works out, give it another year or so, and then 2025, you're rolling with your three interior offensive linemen, hopefully, and they all got it clicking at some point. So it makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
Denny third. Kirk Cousins goes to the Falcons. Is Minnesota the most logical option to trade down with? So, speaking of Discord, after the combine, the Chargers have had conversations with 4 different teams about trading down. It is now I got to remember off the top of my head. It was the Falcons, obviously, which now that they have Kirk Cousins is probably out. It was the Vikings at 8. They had conversations with the Broncos at 12. No, wait. Vikings are 11. Broncos are 12. And then the Raiders at 13. Now, do they want to trade interdivision? Who knows? But there's been conversations with those 4 teams. Obviously, you could probably take Minnesota off that list now. So, Atlanta off that list now. So you're probably thinking the Vikings pick at 11, Broncos pick at 12, Raiders pick at 13, a possibility of trading down.
We actually were chatting about this right before we jumped on, but I would absolutely love, well, let me not say love, because ideally I wanted to stay within the top 10. So Atlanta was like the primary spot to me. But Minnesota's got some really tough decisions to make. And I mean, look, if you get to draft day and they still need a quarterback, boy, you can hold them for ransom. That number 5 pick, you could probably get a bunch for it because they're going to be in desperate need for one. And Justin Jefferson has not signed a contract yet. And one of the reasons why he hasn't signed a contract, from what I've seen and read, is because he wants to know who the quarterback for the future is going to be. So can't trot just anyone out there. You have to give him someone who, A, is already established that he believes in, or B, is one of the better quarterbacks in the draft that he can look forward to the future with. So that number 5 pick may be much more expensive at 11 than what it may have been before today. And as the weeks go on leading up to the draft, because we're only, roughly a little over 6 weeks away. So if Minnesota doesn't figure out something soon, that's the spot that I would be looking at to trade down to.
And the further you trade down, the bigger the bounty. Mm-hmm. So, love to stay within the top 10, but if you can get to 11, 12, 13, you're in a pretty good spot. And boy, would you feel really, really good about getting Brock Bowers in that spot if you're able to collect picks. At 5, I feel like there are some reservations with a lot of people, but man, I don't know who could argue about getting him there.
Bowers at 11 would be nice because at that point you're picking up those extra selections, and it's a really deep wide receiver class. So you may miss out. Say, for instance, if wide receiver was your flavor in the top 5, you can get someone that may be not a tier 1 or one of the top tier guys, but you can get someone who can play a role specific to the offense that maybe they don't have already, and you may even be able to double dip, which you might want to consider anyway, because once they make these moves, if Mike Williams is gone and let's say Keenan's still around, how many more prime years of Keenan Allen do you have? So you have to start thinking forward. And the more picks they get, the more opportunities they have to take swings. And I would not be shocked if they ended up doubling down at wide receiver in this particular draft because it's so deep.
Yeah, it'd make a ton of sense. I totally get it. All right. I think we're good here. I appreciate you guys. We might do this tomorrow. Let's see what the moves happen tomorrow in day 2. But today, Chargers lost Austin Ekler, and we're all okay with that. They gained a Gus Edwards. They gained a Will Dissly, and they re-signed Alohi Gilman. And it's a pretty good day one. I know feels kind of like not a sexy day one because I'm sure a lot of people saying the Raiders won today, or maybe the Commanders with some of the defensive moves they made or whatnot, or the Eagles getting Saquon. But Chargers are a better football team today than they were yesterday, and that's huge. So thank you, everybody, for joining. I am at Garrett Craig. Craig is at top_flight3, as you see there. Jamie is at landing_round. Make sure to join there. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Hit us up on Discord, on Patreon, and all that mess. And we will see you next time.
Salute.